Yo. What's up, guys? How you doing? So my name is Graylan Stewart. Y'all got PowerPoint? Yeah. Thank you.
We got it.
Check this out. All right. How y'all doing?
Great.
Cool. Appreciate you having me. So I'm going to talk to you today about the little things. In business, it's always the little things that kind of get you to the next step, or at least get you to where you want to go. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through my journey. Like Aquino said, I don't really have anything to sell either. But, everybody's journey is a little bit different. So, when I started out, it was always like kind of comparing yourself to others, but, that doesn't really work out. Just kind of do what you do. Everybody works at their own pace, learns their own way, does their own thing. So, see if I can get this going here. Cool, yeah, so the minor shifts in business, that's what we're gonna go through. So a little intro, I'm a God first guy. This is my family over here. Kind of cut out a little bit, but there's 6 of us total. Thank you. But yeah, God first. I always talk about that. If I have to get on the stage, I have to give him the credit for everything I've accomplished. I ask him every day to help me. I thank him for the things that he's given me. So I got to put that out there first. But thank you. Yeah, so I grew up in Oklahoma. Went to college like society tells you to do. When I grew up, it was like you had to go to college. That's just what you did, whether you used the degree or not, which I didn't. But I did that whole thing. Health and phys ed was my degree. I traveled the U.S. on the USA tumbling team. You probably saw in the little video. I was tumbling all over the world, actually. But I ended up winning 16 national titles during my career. 1998, actually got a silver medal at the World Championships, so that was kind of cool. But so worked the corporate world, just like society told you to do. But eventually I kind of got out of that, which I'll share here in a minute. But I did start my own business, eventually in the marketing space, and then I ended up doing wholesaling, which we'll get into. So now I currently I used to live in both states. So I lived in Oklahoma and Colorado, which is a crazy story because a lot of people don't believe that. But I literally lived in 2 different states for 8 years straight. And when I look back, it's kind of crazy. So every Sunday I was on a plane, either coming or going from Oklahoma to Colorado. I've been in Colorado now full time for just a little over 2 years. But the reason that is because I met my wife that you see in the picture. We were actually in college. We dated in college for about a year, and she moved away because her family moved, right? We were kids, so her family moved to Colorado. So we broke up. We both found other people, got married, did that whole thing. So we have a blended family. But we did get back together after 17 years of not even hearing each other. Like we didn't even know where each other were. So it was kind of cool. It was like we reunited and picked up where we left off. So anyway, that's important to the story as I go through. But yeah, so eight years I did that back and forth. But now I'm married, 4 kids, 2 of them are grown. They're in Oklahoma. My stepkids are with us in Colorado, which they're a blessing as well. I treat them just like they're mine. But anyways, I've always been very competitive, super driven in everything I do. I've always strived to be the best. Whether I achieved that or not, I believed it. Always just hustling, doing whatever I can to be number one at everything that I did. And that's just kind of, how I'm built. So, but anyways, I'm gonna talk to you about the many shifts, tweaks, sometimes pivots that you have to make, in the business world, especially in what we do. Wholesaling is my main thing. And we're gonna go through that, like different marketing channels and things like that too. So just gonna go through my whole story pretty much. So my background, my sales journey. So it always takes small shifts, like I said, no matter what kind of business you're in, but sometimes full pivots are necessary. So like probably most of you out there, as a kid, you might have been entrepreneurs, you kind of always had the itch, and I wasn't any different. So I always did sales as a kid. I was always marketing, selling, making something. Anybody remember the brand OP, Ocean Pacific? It probably dates me, but yeah, Ocean Pacific was big time when I was in elementary school. Like if you didn't have that, then you weren't cool, right? So, and my mom always lived above her means, so we had a cool house, but we had nothing else, you know what I mean? So if I wanted something, I had to buy it myself. So I actually used to make OP wallets. believe it or not. So I had the t-shirts, was about all I had. So I would cut the tags off, put them on the wallet, and sell them for $5, you know, selling bracelets, suckers, you know, whatever I could do to make money. So that's how I would actually buy my Converse or whatever, you know, was popular at the time. But anyways, that transitioned, went to the college thing, you know, like my degree. I'm like, okay, how can I use this degree? Which I didn't really, but it was like, it kind of fit. So I ended up going to a fitness center where the majority of the pay, you know, ended up being, you know, just selling things, products, services, you know, like the memberships and stuff. And then I got tired of that because 33 grand was my best year ever. And I'm like, I'm better than 33,000. So I just quit on the spot. It freaked my wife out at the time, my first wife. But I did it, you know, because I just knew there was something better. So I ended up falling into Yellow Pages, believe it or not. Some of you may not even know what that is. But Yellow Pages, they used to have a phone book where you had to look people up, right? So Yellow Pages is where I started out, and I actually didn't want the job at first because my goal was just to make 50 grand, and I was making 33. So I'm like, how can I just get to 50? So I knew it was sales because I was already good at that. I was number one in the fitness center out of all the locations every single month. Well, 52 out of the 56 months I was there, I was number one in sales. So I knew sales is where I should be. So I went into Yellow Pages, turned it down at first. They brought me back with a different manager. He talked me into it, and it's the best choice I ever made. So I went from 33K to 90K year over year. So that was a huge blessing. But yeah, it was just selling ads into the phone book, which I never even knew how that worked. But yeah, all the ads in the phone books were sold because they give their phone books out for free. But anyways, my best year at Yellow Pages, I made $260,000. And I kind of felt the shift coming again. So another little shift that I had to do was I saw the writing on the wall. I made 260. The next year I went to 220. And then the next year I went to 180. But my performance was the same. Still killing it, still more new ads than anybody else. I was actually in the top 5 of sales. Every year I was there almost 8 years, out of 600 reps nationwide. But I was always number one in the Oklahoma City office where we were at 60 reps. But yeah, so my value was my value was the same, but my compensation was going down. So it was like, man, how can I get paid what I'm worth? So that's when I actually transitioned and totally pivoted in this instance into my own marketing company. So I started a marketing company, but my goal was, okay, how can I still do what I'm doing, but for myself? So I was selling like $1.5 million worth of Yellow Pages a year. And I was like, if I can just sell half of that, I could probably make more money. So I did exactly that, started my own company. I actually started a direct mail magazine. And that magazine was exactly what the Yellow Pages was, except for it was mailed, and it was nicer, people kept it around longer, and it was every month. But yeah, so my first year in my marketing company, I actually made more than my best year profit-wise in Yellow Pages. So it was another good move. So that pivot worked out for me. So then I kind of got burned out on that because selling to mom and pop businesses is a hustle. If you've never done it, it's literally door-to-door sales on businesses. So I did that, from Yellow Pages to my marketing company, 15 years or more, and it was just getting tiring. As soon as you lose a customer, you got to replace that customer to keep revenue the same, or gain another one to actually increase. So I was getting tired of that. I was just searching on YouTube one night, to be honest. I didn't know what I was looking for at all, but I stumbled into wholesaling somehow. So another big pivot. My marketing company at that point, the revenue was all 12-month contracts, so it was pretty much just residual. So I could live on it for a year without doing anything really. So that's why I was able to go into real estate full-time at that point. So, but wholesaling in general is all sales and marketing, and that's all I've ever done. So I was like, this makes sense to me, so it just clicked right away. So I literally just started like that night. This was like 2 a.m. when I found this video, and I kept watching it all night. I won't get into that. But my secret to success, everybody always asks me, and in every organization, the 2 organizations, and then my marketing company, like, what is your secret? And I just said, I'm relentlessly, consistently persistent. And that's it. Like, there was no secret. I just actually got out there and worked. That was the difference. Most people would drive around or talk about it or think about it. I actually did it. So that's my only secret. So let's go into how I got started on my real estate journey now. So in 2018, like I said, discovered wholesale. And this was in September, like early to mid-September. But then, like I said, it was my first huge pivot. So I discovered wholesale on YouTube, watched it all night, which I told you. Found a local meetup that was meeting 3 days later. So I went to that meetup. That's where I got my first 18 buyers. That's not a lot, but it's something. Had a website built in 2 days. My company already did that, so that was easy. And then I set up a direct mail campaign. Why did I choose direct mail? Because we already did that, right? We sold postcards and I had a direct mail magazine. So that's what made sense for my business at that time. I already knew how it worked, knew how to do good ad copy and that kind of thing. So I sent it to an absentee owner list, about 2,500 people or so. And, direct mail then was pretty good. But I started getting calls. We were in Vegas. Me and my wife love to go to Vegas. I'm a Christian man, but we do love to gamble too. So we were there, but I was trying to plan the postcards to hit on a Monday, but they hit on a Saturday. I'm walking down the strip, literally, getting phone calls. But during that weekend, before we left, I did lock up 2 deals over the phone while I was there, which was crazy. I was really scared when the phone was ringing. I'm like, man, there's somebody actually calling me from these postcards. Like, what do I say? And I just talked to them. You're just talking to people. That's really all it is. People try to overcomplicate it. But so I ended up locking up 8 deals by the end of September. So not even a month before I even knew what I was doing, really. And then October, we actually closed on 7 of those 8. So $72K my very first month in the business, which was like, I thought it was amazing. Like, wow, this is crazy. 72. Like, yeah, thank you. But my best month ever on my own was like 55 or so in my marketing company. So I'm like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing yet. And I made 72, after I learned what could happen. So anyways, I ended up adding cold calling and RVM and, some basic SEO, because we kind of did that in our company as well, as opposed to just doing the direct mail. So now 2019, I'm like trying to figure out how can I scale, but y'all saw some of the presentations yesterday. Like that was too early to try to scale, but that's all I could think of, but I'm working my butt off doing it all on my own. I'm a one guy show at this point. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can do more, right? So I actually had my first 6-figure month, month 5, I made 143. So I was really searching, like, what can I do to not be working 12 hours a day, right? So I did have a huge shift next. I lost at least 300K, could have been more. That's just an estimate, because I joined a program. I'm not gonna tell you names or anything like that, but I joined a program that was 50 grand. And I literally stopped everything I was doing, like all the success I was already having initially. I completely stopped my business, basically. And, because that's what they said to do. And everything I do, I go all in on it. So that's what I did. I was making at least 50,000 those first 5 months or more. So I'm just kind of estimating I lost at least 300K because I stopped doing it. So that was huge. But then I shifted back. I'm like, okay, I finally found a system that I needed, and that's what I was looking for. But the difference is this time, I want to go from wholesaler to actually have a wholesaling business, instead of a solopreneur type of thing, because that just wasn't sustainable, working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, which you got to do a lot of that in the beginning. But if you actually want to grow, you got to build a team, right? 2019, I finally found it, what I was looking for, at least by the end. So I hired an acquisition manager. He was actually a guy that used to work for me selling my ads in my magazine. So I already knew he could sell good. So that's what I needed to kind of help me get away from that, from doing it myself. But I was still getting a couple of calls here and there, because I still had marketing out there from before. Direct mail can kind of stagger in and some of the cold call leads and things like that. But overall, it was just, ended up doing around 20 deals or so that year. Probably made 300K or so profit. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. I would have did more if I'd never stopped, right? But you learn, that's part of this. There's always little pivots. Sometimes they're the wrong moves, and you kind of learn by doing. So that's what happened. So 2020, I'm like, I'm ready now. I'm gonna hit the ground running, see what happens. I finally found the system. I'm starting to hire some people. First full year really in wholesaling. But I'm still kind of stuck in that 70K a month kind of max. I had that one-off 143 my 5th month, but really overall I'm kind of stuck at the 70 mark. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I did another little small shift, just adding more marketing, SMS, I added radio, Facebook organic is huge because that's free. But then still doing some of the other stuff, cold calling, doing direct mail more to like targeted lists at this point instead of just mass blast. But then I ended up getting sued from RVMs. It didn't stop me, but it did make me think differently, you know what I mean? It cost me $10K overall. It was a lesson learned, but I still kind of just kept going on. Still got the cost of doing business at this point. And then anyways, still looking to hire. Finally found a rock star acquisition manager that can actually kind of take it to the next level for me. It's actually my first acquisition manager's wife. And then March and April is when Corona hit, you know, the whole pandemic thing. And that really helped me actually because that's why I told you my story living in 2 states. I was virtual from day one because I had to be. So we already knew how to do that. I've never really locked up a contract in person, so I don't even really know what that looks like. So we were already used to doing it over the phone, so that really actually helped us. So I started increasing my budget when people were dropping out. Some people stopped their business altogether. Some people were just waiting to see what happened. But I actually increased it, you know, because I knew, like, hey, this is my chance to take some market share and do what I can do to kind of get to the next level. So another small shift that we ended up doing, you know, I was bottlenecked at Dispo. That was always my issue initially. Because it was me doing it, you know, we're starting to do several deals. It's like, I'm still wearing most of the hats. I had an acquisition manager, but I'm still doing TC, the marketing, running the business, you know, all these things. But Dispo was the hard thing. So I actually moved my first acquisition manager to Dispo, and I hired an in-house TC, and that helped a lot. So now I had one person in each main position. So I could really focus on more marketing and things like that, figuring it out. But another small shift, I joined Investor Lift, Cartel. I don't know if y'all know what Investor Lift is, but that really helped me because you literally have all the buyers in the nation. So I joined that at the end of September, and that really helped my Dispo process a little bit, but it still wasn't great because we didn't have our processes down in that department yet. But we still finished like 1.4 million or so that year, but we were at 70% profit margin because I'm completely virtual. You know, we have no overhead. And the marketing I was doing was super cheap, so it was still a good year overall. Not where we wanted to go, but it was getting there, right? So 2021, I'm like, okay, maybe I can finally scale this like I tried to do before that didn't work. But I still had this Dispo issue, so how can I fix that? So I started building a team, getting better at that, you know, hiring and training. People say you can hire VAs and they just kind of do their thing. That's not true. You got to train them even more. But we can get into that a little bit here. So another small shift. I added novations, thanks to Corey Gary. Novations kind of changed our business because a lot of deals that we were throwing away, we can suddenly capitalize on, you know, because you can pay a lot more. If you don't know what those are, hit me up. But yeah, novations was a big thing because we literally probably added 2 or 3 deals a month just from adding that exit strategy. But I was still bottlenecked because I ended up doing Dispo along with the other guy, because he wasn't that great. I'm like, we need to get some closings, you know? So I was doing it myself still a lot. Another small shift or a little tweak I had to make at this point, I ended up hiring an operations manager. So she actually started at acquisitions with the goal in mind she would be my COO one day. I worked with her for years in Yellow Pages, and she worked, you know, there for 15 years, but mostly doing the digital side of it. So that was a good move for me. It ended up being a major shift actually, you know. But I lost around 100K when I tried to do PPC. You know, PPC is my main marketing channel right now, but I lost about 100K because I tried somebody that someone recommended, lost 50K like after 3 months or so. Tried to bring it in-house with some different things, like I was terrible at it and I didn't want to do it. Then I hired a company. They did okay, but it wasn't really what I needed. So all in all, I lost about $100,000 on it. So it was huge lessons, but I still knew it could work. I just had to figure out how it could work, you know. At this time, I'm still doing cold calling, radio, Facebook organic. Like I pretty much did every marketing channel at this point. So then I started a YouTube channel because I was getting hit up all the time, like, you know, can you help me do this, you know? Locally in Oklahoma, even though I didn't live there, you know, I know a lot of people there. and they'd see me have some success. So started a YouTube channel mainly to give back, because that's how I learned. Like, I literally learned 100% on YouTube. YouTube is crazy. You can learn anything on it. So I started it just so I could give back to people and not tell people the truth. So whether it's good, bad, or ugly, like my losses or my gains, you know, I don't really care. I just want people to know, like, the real way. Like, here's really from my experiences, right? And that's why I started that. But I finished that year around 1.8, lower profit margin because there was more expensive marketing, and now I had actually people that I had to pay salaries and stuff like that. But it was still good because we're virtual, so 50% wasn't too bad. But 2022, I was preparing for a huge year because of, I finally figured it out, I felt like, right? So 2022, I created an online course because I was getting hit up even more. Like, I actually have a free course, so if y'all want a free course, hit me up for that. It's completely free, no strings attached at all. But I started doing that. My system and processes finally were kind of, you know, on point. I felt good about those. But I had another bad shift. You know, we had some really bad hires. Hiring people costs money because it's time, energy, resources, and you're paying, you know, people to train them a lot of times. So that was bad. We lost about $25,000, but a lot of time was more than important. But Q1 was several bad hires, and then a bad shift. Lost about $75K on this deal. Just bad marketing decisions. You know, and I believe in all marketing channels, as long as you're consistent and you do it over and over and you stick with it. But even that, you have to do minor shifts and tweaks and those things too, or they may not work, just like PPC didn't work before, but now it does because I did it right. Anyways, lost a lot of money on marketing and just opportunities, wasting acquisition managers' times and things like that. But, you know, Q3, the market started changing a little bit. It's shifting, if you haven't noticed. But it didn't stop us. You know, we were still doing okay, but it was just a bad year overall between all these things that happened kind of all at once. So another small shift we did at the end of Q3. Obviously, we took SEO and PPC in-house because I feel like that was the best way to do it. You know, if we can do it ourselves and manage it ourselves, or we pay attention to it all the time, we could probably master it. And the good thing is my operations manager actually has like 15 years experience in that. So that's been a big blessing. But a huge shift. Q4, we're still bottlenecked at Dispo, but I finally found me a rock star disposition manager and 2 more acquisition manager, and they're all VAs. And I don't really like to call them VAs because they're part of the team, but just so you know what they are, you know, virtual assistants. They don't live here, but they're hungry. They want to work, right? And I know Corey uses a lot of VAs as well for his business, but I can hire them for major positions in my company now, especially since we're already virtual. Now we're virtual in every aspect of the word. But that was a huge change once we got her. She kind of put us on the next level because she's actually working. You know, Americans are pretty lazy for the most part, if you haven't noticed. But we're still doing radio at this point. PPC started working better because we brought it in-house. Finished that challenging year. It wasn't great. But we still did like 1.5, but our profit margin was a lot less because we had a lot of losses, a lot more hires that we paid salaries on, you know, things like that. But, you know, overall, on a normal business, 35% is still pretty good. But for what I was used to, you know, it wasn't great. So moving on to my main 3 marketing strategy, or my main 3 real estate strategies now, obviously, the consistent influx of cash and the bigger paydays is wholesaling, is the influx of cash, right? Because that's like my ATM. If I need a bunch of money, we use that for wholesaling. So I'll never stop that because that's the ATM. And then wholesaling or wholetailing and my fix and flips, you know, that's the bigger, slower paydays, but they're bigger paydays. And we like wholetailing, which is basically wholesaling on the retail market, just for a bigger spread because there's still retail cash buyers out there. And then my buy and hold and bank notes, you know, that's our long-term wealth forever money. So that's what you can build your wealth on, like Aquino was talking about. But yeah, at this point, I've accumulated around 30 or so rentals. And I got about $4 million in equity in those properties. So most of them are paid off. So it's been a blessing. That's what wholesaling did for me to kind of get to these other things. But so 2023, you know, this is, I know for sure it's going to be my best year ever because now we finally figured it out. You know, when I started, I had success early, but I wanted to jump all the way up, you know, right away. And that's just not reality, even though I thought I could because I was good at what I did. but it still takes time. It takes time to learn all these things and figure them out. Different tweaks, pivots in a lot of cases. But huge shift for this year for me. I'm going to start raising a lot of private money, which I've already started doing that. Because I figure if we can close on a property, then that changes everything. I've always used hard money, and I had some private money lenders, but I'm talking about unlimited money. If you do it right. So that's kind of my goal this year. And I'm still focusing on VAs, hiring those people for key positions because they can do it. Like, they're as smart as you and I. Most of them have master's degrees in a lot of cases. But, just to put it in perspective, like in Egypt or in the Philippines, their minimum wage equivalent is less than $1. So if you can pay them, $7, $8, $10 and some commission, they're super happy and they're rich for their company, right? So that's why I totally believe in them. And it works for our business model because we're already virtual anyway. So, but yeah, I'm increasing PPC. I actually added 2 radio stations last week. I was in Oklahoma City shooting those commercials. More Facebook organic because it's free. Still maintaining our SEO. And then we actually started email campaigns, just testing it out to see how that works. We're going to start doing MLS deals as well. But another huge shift. I'm actively, right now, y'all, this is probably the biggest thing that we're doing. We're actively integrating AI into our sales process and acquisitions. Like, if you don't know what AI is, you got to get on the bandwagon now. Artificial intelligence can change everything, which it already has in a lot of cases. They already try to ban ChatGPT with schools, because kids are using it for essays and stuff. But I'm not even talking about ChatGPT. You can actually use AI to act as your employee. So that's actively what we're doing right now. We've already started. It takes about 90 days because it's actually learning from our best salespeople, which is me and my COO. Currently building out a better JV program. The YouTube was a blessing and a curse because we hit it all the time with JV deals. Most of them were junk. They weren't worth it. But some of them are good, but we didn't really have a good process and system for that. So we're building out a better program for that because we're leaving a lot of money on the table. People want to partner with you and you don't want to do it, then that's just money out of your pocket for no reason. So we're actively doing that. But launching a wholesale game changer program, I've had little courses and things like that for the last couple of years, but I'm going to actually launch a program to actually walk people through it, hold their hand, keep them accountable, all those kind of things. So it's already done. We just haven't launched yet, so that'll be coming probably the next couple of weeks or so. Another little small shift. I'm actually going to move my TC over to sales because she's our best salesperson, and we're taking our transactions to easy REI. Been contemplating it for a long time. David Olds didn't even know about this before this weekend, but me and my operations manager decided this like a few weeks ago. But yeah, my TC does all of our renegotiating because the acquisitions try to do it and they're a little scared, like, oh, I got the rapport, but what if? So they're getting like maybe 5 or 10 down, but my TC gets them like 20, 25 down, so we're moving her to sales because it just makes more sense for us. And we need another acquisition anyways. And then another huge shift. I'm promoting my operations manager to COO. I've been calling her that already for the last several months, but we're going to make it official soon because she already runs about 85 to 90% of the business now. But once she gets up to speed, 100% can do everything. She'll get that title, if you will, but a big raise with it too. So that's happening pretty quick. And of course, doing more novation deals, seller finance, doing more sub-2 now with those are already coming in, y'all. We're closing on 2 sub-2s next week in different states.